Republican State Representative Charlie Geren of Fort Worth, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So you filed House Joint Resolution 97 that ultimately would legalize casino gambling and sports betting in Texas. Why is this important to you?
Jack, I think the most important thing right now is to let the people of Texas decide if they want casino gambling and sports gambling in Texas. And that's what this HJR does. It puts it in front of the people in the form of a constitutional amendment to be decided next November. And I think it's important just to let the people decide. In the polling I've seen, 85% of the people that were polled want the opportunity to vote on this. That they're not necessarily for it, not necessarily against it, but they do want the opportunity to vote.
And do you support having casino gambling and legalized sports betting in Texas?
I do. I think that's something that we need. We're losing billions of dollars to Oklahoma, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Nevada.
And the question is, before it can become something that voters decide, the legislature has to pass this. And I'm wondering, do you think these efforts in the past have failed? Do you think anything has changed this time?
I do believe that there's more support for this. Obviously, we have to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to approve this. We've never tried it on a truly destination resort, which this HGR creates destination resorts, not just casinos, but fabulous hotels, restaurants, showrooms, and retail. All of that not only creates jobs, but it generates a lot of money for the state of Texas.
And so you're not talking about where you would see slot machines in convenience stores or at the airport or anything like that?
No, I'm not envisioning slot machines at every convenience store or even at the railhead. I think that we need these destination resorts, and we visited with the tribes in Oklahoma. WinStar's not going to shut down if this happens. They're going to continue to do it there, and it's the clientele that these would attract would create a lot of dollar volume just in retail sales and clothing and accessories.
And I wanted to ask you, because you talked about the framework. So when it relates to casino gambling, you're envisioning, as part of your resolution, 2 of these casino style resorts in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 2 in the Houston area, 1 in San Antonio, 1 in Corpus Christi, 1 in McAllen. And I'm wondering, why 2 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Because the population supports that, and that's what we looked at. The DFW area, the Houston area, would support 2 of these large destination resorts, where McAllen, the Valley area, will probably only support 1. And so we looked at population and tourism, and I don't want them to build a luxurious resort and have it go broke because nobody's there. And if we put one at Godly, Texas, it's not going to produce the revenue that it is in the DFW area.
And from what I was reading, there is a change this time around in your legislation that would be more friendly to operators of the horse racing industry. Can you explain that?
This legislation is crafted for the existing horse racing licensees. Not to say that they'd qualify, they would have to apply like anyone else would, and the licenses could be sold. But no matter who holds a horse racing license, they'll still have to go through this newly created Texas Gaming Commission in order to be approved. And the legislature and the gaming commission will set the rules on that. The obviously pari-mutuel betting has been approved in the areas where there are tracks now. And they're diverse in the areas that they are. The three Indian tribes in Texas will fall under the ICRA Act, the Indian Gaming Act, with through the Department of Interior. So those the Kickapoos have already are qualified, and they would have to apply for a license. The Tigwa and the Alabama Coshada are not IGRA tribes, but they could become IGRA tribes.
And as far as like the horse racing that's allowed now, obviously Lone Star Park comes to mind in Grand Prairie. This would enable them to compete on the same level, right? There won't be a staged or a tiered system. They would be able to operate, if they're approved, one of these casino gambling resorts.
They would be able to, and they would have the option of creating a destination resort at Lone Star Park, or they would be able to build a casino destination resort in another area in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If they chose to do it at Lone Star Park, that would be the only one they could do. They couldn't do one at Lone Star and then do one in North Fort Worth.
And as far as the specifics of how this would work, your resolution does not address that, right? Would there have to be a separate bill that delves into more of the specifics and how this would work?
There would be. The enabling legislation has not been filed yet, but it have to be filed, and it would get into the details, and the legislature would decide on sports betting, what type of sports betting would be allowed in the state of Texas. So all of that would be decided by the legislature. The enabling legislation probably will be filed in the next week or two.
And in order to pass, would that enabling legislation and the HJR have to pass both of them?
Yes, with the HJR is the most important one, because that puts it in front of the people of the state of Texas. If the people of the state of Texas approve it, we don't have to have an HJR now. We could wait 2 years and do the HJR. I would like to see it happen now so that we can move forward if the voters decide that we want destination casino gambling in Texas.
Would the enabling legislation have to come first, though, in order for, you know what I mean? So you couldn't do, or could you do HJR before the enabling legislation, or
you can't? Yes. If we could do just the HJR, that would not, in my opinion, not be ideal, but we could do the HJR, get it on the ballot, and then if it passed, we could do the enabling legislation in 2 years. Ideally, we would pass both of them this term.
And I know there's a similar resolution in the Senate. Have you had conversations with Senator Carol Alvarado, who filed that bill?
I have not, and I'm not certain that hers will be the only bill filed on the Senate side. I'm going back to Austin today, and I hope to set up a meeting with her and some other senators, as well as the lieutenant governor, to talk about this.
And I do want to ask you about that. But first, I want to ask you a little bit about the sports betting component. We've talked a lot about the casino gambling. How are you envisioning sports betting component?
I'm not actually. The Supreme Court has ruled that